Hello. I'm JForceG, and I want to apologize for not making content and not following through this last little while. Historically speaking, I do have trouble following through. Even in school and stuff growing up, it was sort of always an issue with me with assignments. I tend to get really ambitious to a point that I sort of lock up and have trouble proceeding. And I don't know why that is, but it does happen. So, from now on, I'm going to try to be better, and I've sort of created some new techniques as to how I will, maybe not techniques, but a new approach to how I'm going to make my content that will kind of mitigate this issue from ever happening again. But first, I do want to talk to you about future content. You're probably rolling your eyes right now, but I promise it's not... I won't be making any promises in regards to any big projects, right? That's kind of a big part of it. So before we discuss this, I want to sort of address the elephants, the various elephants. I think there are 2 elephants in the room. And that is the future of Cube Creature. So what happened to Cube Creature? What's going to happen to Cube Creature? If you remember this guy, I started a series a while back, pretty much saying I was going to make a sort of like Mario ripoff game. It started out as a little prototype, which I managed to finish, which was nice. But beyond that, I didn't finish the game. So what I've decided is that from here on out, whatever happens to Cube Boy is up to you. In that I'm going to release all the source files for free. In fact, all of my previous blend files that were kind of locked behind a Patreon are going to be free from now on. All the old content that I made. Yeah. So another elephant I want to address is the VR music project thingy. Unfortunately, that was kind of... Whenever I made that, I was both excited about the prospect of creating music in VR, but I was also dealing with girlfriend problems that made it hard to focus on any projects, if I'm being honest. I'm glad to be out of that situation. Still, I have to take some responsibility for kind of my crazy ambitions and how I tend to preemptively create an idea like, oh, I'm gonna make a series around making a game, you know? But making a game is actually a pretty big prospect, you know? Especially a video game. Yeah, and I'm not saying it won't happen in the future. I'm just saying things are going to change from here on out to kind of simplify things for myself and give you guys content. So here's where we get to how will I be better in the future? Well, I'm going to focus on small scale projects and prevent burnout and prevent overwhelming myself. Because for me, that's a vicious circle that I only became kind of aware of recently. Like, I always knew there was something off, but I tend to start a project, think about it a lot, get really ambitious, as I said earlier, and burn myself out. And then somewhere between burning myself out and getting overwhelmed, I sort of like forget about kind of where I was in place, and it's really hard for me to kind of start from where I left off, you know? And that's another thing, is I'm going to avoid making promises in terms of video series. So, for an example, I'm not going to preemptively say, we're going to make a game, and it's going to be a series, and it's going to be this big idea. And yeah. My problem is I have go big or go home mentality. And with Cube Creature, for an example, I really wanted to go big, and I simply couldn't have. Maybe I should try to change that mentality and mostly focus on like entertaining and educating instead. So, let's talk about my future content. So I will be working on Python development. I'm pretty confident in this, as I've learned Python a little bit quite recently, in that I made a chatbot that uses a kind of like low level of machine learning. It's no chat GPT or anything. But it does use a scoring system that is much better at sort of guessing what the user is trying to say. I think I'll go through all that actually and sort of show you guys the process in a future video. But again, no promises. Ooh. No, I will be doing Python development regardless, though. It'll be small things, but it will be done. I can promise that. Blender stuff. Someone in my comments mentioned that they were struggling making a fog texture, and I can do that. That's quite easy for me. So that's next on the sort of like list. And also, if you have other Blender questions, I can kind of do a tutorial upon request. I am more of a texture artist, but I do some basic box modeling as well. Possible tutorials on C# and Unity. I say possible because I'm more focused on Python right now, but I have learned quite a bit of Unity and C#. So if there's anything you might be interested in particular, that is very niche, I could look into it and sort of see what I can find and learn and teach. The reason why I'm more apprehensive about making content around C# and Unity is simply because there are so many tutorials and videos available, whereas I'm focused on more niche sort of things that aren't as aware, sort of like openly aware, like isn't as commonly known. But it's not out of the question. Live streaming games. This is what I'm excited for. I do play games sometimes, believe it or not. And I think it would be like, why, like I keep asking myself, why am I not live streaming this? It's, it could be company, it could be fun, could be entertaining. So I'm going to start doing that pretty much as of today. I started playing Disco Elysium. It's a fun game, great game. There's, the combat is very limited. It's more focused on expressing yourself as a character, whether it be politically or just like what kind of you're a cop. So like, what kind of cop are you? Very cool. But I also want to play some old CRPGs like Fallout 1 and 2. Maybe something from a couple years ago, or a few years ago, like Divinity Original Sin 2. Yeah. So that's definitely going to be a thing. Oh yeah, and I want to start live streaming random coding and modeling projects, usually while listening to music, like you hear here. The live streaming, coding and modeling stuff, I won't commit to any finished product, really, in terms of like, big scale end game, It's just going to be kind of like for fun or for education purposes. If someone asks me to show them how to do a specific thing, if I'm aware of that thing, I will try to teach you, I think this one, possible small... Oh, right, this one's cool. So, possible small devlogs on tabletop game development and video game development. But there won't be any promises of completion. The pressure is deadly. Okay, so I wrote this whenever I was in a funny mood. I see. So I actually made a tabletop game recently that I want to expand upon, and maybe I'll do a let's play of it, as it can be played solo. It's a tabletop role-playing game. As for video game development, it'll be like things I'm curious about or you're curious about that I kind of want to test out. Maybe in the future I'll eventually finish some video game project, but I find the art, the music, and everything makes me burnt out whenever I attempt it. So I have to approach it in a very smart way for my brain, to process. Oh, yes, this one I'm also excited for. Discussion-based content on AI and machine learning. So all of you have heard of ChatGPT, OpenAI. I'm learning quite a bit about that right now, and how it kind of... Like, obviously, I don't know the code behind it, but I do understand some basic kind of like, I don't want to say ideology, but like a basic understanding of how language models and such work. So if you're interested in more discussion-based content, like for an example, we can talk about how AI and machine learning can and will affect gaming in the future, stuff like that. Of course, that's speculation, but it's bound to happen, in my opinion. But we could also just talk about gaming as a general, we don't have to, yeah. There is one other thing. Majig is, let's see what this says. Oh, right. So there's no possible here, because I know I'm going to do this. Just a separate channel for the music that I kind of play in the background. I make my own music. And I don't know, I just think it'd be cool to kind of dump it somewhere. All right, corrected that. And also another channel focusing on political discourse. I'm not going to go into this on this kind of like these topics on the topics that I'm passionate about on this channel, but I will say that it will happen. I'll kind of like quietly link it in a video perhaps, but I will say this, if you're a younger audience member, please ask your parents if it's appropriate to view political content on my channel because I really don't want angry parents messaging me and accusing them of like trying to indoctrinate their child or whatever. So yeah. So that's the future of this channel. And as of today, I'm gonna start with, let's see here. Da, 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 live streaming. It's fairly simple, very light. Um and yeah. And again, the cube creature stuff is going to be openly available. Um, there's source kind of like material that works with UpBGE that I don't believe I released before. Um, but yeah, you can have fun with that. You could use that model for pretty much anything. It's a very simple design. You can use the textures. I do believe I had some more content, and if I'm being honest, I don't know where it is on my drives, but if I find them, I'll also post those for free. Um, yeah. So again, I'm really sorry about being so tardy on content creation. Um, I mean, from one lens, I can say, I don't owe anyone anything, but the fact of the matter is, you guys took interest in my channel, and I implied promises and series that I didn't follow through with. And that's something I feel guilty about. Anyway, I appreciate you guys sticking around this far and enjoying my content, and there will be a lot more. I can promise you that. Thanks.